I'm Charles, your typical 16-year-old high school student. I live in a quiet suburb with my parents and younger sister, Faith. Life is pretty straightforward: school, homework, hanging out with friends, and the occasional family outing. On the surface, everything seems perfectly normal. But there's one thing that sets me apart from other teenagers. A recurring dream that has haunted me for years. The dream started when I was about 10. At first, it was just an occasional oddity that I brushed off. But over the years, it has become a nightly torment. Every night, I find myself in the same place. A dense, dark forest. The air is thick with fog, and the only sound is the distant hooting of an owl. I'm always alone, wandering aimlessly through the trees, my heart pounding with a sense of impending doom. In the dream, everything feels incredibly real. The cold air biting at my skin, the rough bark of the trees against my fingertips, and the eerie silence that surrounds me. It's as if I'm really there, trapped in this nightmare world. The most unsettling part is the sense of familiarity, as if I've been to this place before, though I know I haven't. Over time, the dream has become more detailed and disturbing. I've started to notice figures moving in the shadows, always just out of sight. There's an overwhelming feeling that I'm being watched, and sometimes I hear whispers calling my name. Despite the terror, I can never seem to wake up until the dream has run its course. I always wake up drenched in sweat, my heart racing, and the lingering sense of dread clinging to me long after I've left the dream behind. This dream has started to affect my daily life in ways I can't ignore. The constant fatigue from restless nights makes it hard to concentrate in school. My grades are slipping, and my teachers have started to notice. I'm always on edge, jumping at the slightest sound. My friends think I'm just stressed out from school, but it's so much more than that. The anxiety gnaws at me, and I can't shake the feeling that the dream is trying to tell me something I can't quite grasp. My parents are worried too. They've taken me to doctors, therapists, and even a sleep specialist, but no one can explain why I keep having the same dream. They all say the same thing: reduce stress, get more sleep, and it will eventually go away. But it hasn't. If anything, it's getting worse. Every night, I go to bed dreading what's to come. The dream feels like a curse, a dark secret that I carry with me every day. I don't know why this is happening to me or what it means, but I'm determined to find out. Something about the dream feels important, like a puzzle I need to solve. And until I do, I know it will continue to haunt me night after night. As the weeks passed, the dream's intensity grew. It was as if my mind was determined to plunge me deeper into this nightmare every night. The forest, once silent and eerie, became a cacophony of unsettling sounds. Branches snapping, leaves rustling, and those same whispers growing louder and more distinct. They called my name over and over, in a chorus of voices I almost recognized. And then new elements began to appear. One night, I stumbled upon a clearing in the forest, illuminated by a pale, unnatural light. In the center stood a stone altar, covered in strange symbols and dried blood. The sight of it sent a chill down my spine, and I woke up gasping for air. The image burned into my mind. Another night, I found a dilapidated cabin with boarded-up windows and a sense of overwhelming dread emanating from within. Each new element felt like a clue, a piece of a puzzle that I had to solve. I couldn't ignore the dream anymore. I started researching everything I could about recurring dreams, symbols, and the subconscious mind. I spent hours on the internet, diving into forums and websites dedicated to dream interpretation. I learned about the significance of forests, altars, and cabins in dreams, symbols of the unknown, places of sacrifice, and hidden fears. But none of the explanations felt right. None of them matched the vivid horror I experienced every night. Desperate for answers, I turned to books about the paranormal and the occult. I found references to ancient rituals, cursed lands, and spirits trapped between worlds. The more I read, the more I felt a connection to the elements in my dream. But what did it all mean? Was my mind trying to tell me something? Or was I just losing my grip on reality? I started talking to my friends and family about the dream, hoping someone might offer a new perspective. My parents were supportive but clueless. They suggested more therapy, which I reluctantly agreed to, though I knew it wouldn't help. My friends were curious but skeptical. They listened to my stories with wide eyes and offered half-hearted reassurances. But there was one friend, Jamie, who took me seriously. Jamie had always been into the supernatural and offered to help me investigate. One evening, we sat in my room, surrounded by books and printouts from my research. You know, Jamie said, some people believe dreams are windows into other realities. Maybe what you're seeing isn't just a dream but a place that actually exists. The idea seemed far-fetched, but it resonated with me. What if the dream wasn't just my subconscious playing tricks? What if it was something more? As we delved deeper, eerie coincidences started to emerge. I found an old family photo album and nearly dropped it in shock. There, in the background of a picture from a long-ago camping trip, was a forest that looked exactly like the one in my dream. My parents said it was a place they had visited when I was very young, but I had no memory of it. Then there was the news article I stumbled upon about a missing hiker found dead in the woods, not far from where we had camped. The details of the case were disturbingly similar to elements of my dream. The same symbols, the same eerie circumstances. It was as if my dream was tied to a real place, a real event. The more connections I found, the more the line between dream and reality blurred. The forest, the altar, the whispers, they weren't just figments of my imagination. They were part of something real, something dark and dangerous. And I was determined to uncover the truth, no matter what it took. With Jamie's help, I planned to visit the forest from the photo. It felt like the next logical step, a way to confront whatever was haunting my dreams. But as the day of the trip approached, my anxiety grew. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was walking into something I wasn't prepared to face. The dream had become more than just a nighttime terror. It was a living nightmare that had seeped into my waking life, and I had to find out why. Jamie and I finally made the trip to the forest. As we walked through the familiar, foreboding trees, my heart pounded with a mix of fear and anticipation. We reached the clearing from my dream, and there it was, the stone altar, just as I had seen it. The sight of it brought a wave of nausea and an overwhelming sense of déjà vu. I knew, without a doubt, that this place held the key to my recurring nightmare. We spent hours examining the altar and the surrounding area, but it wasn't until Jamie stumbled upon an old, weathered box hidden beneath a pile of leaves that we made our breakthrough. Inside were items that made my blood run cold. An old journal, photographs, and what looked like ritualistic tools. The journal, written in my grandmother's handwriting, revealed a family secret that had been buried for decades. As we read through the journal, the pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place. My grandmother had been part of a small, secretive group that practiced ancient rituals in the forest. They believed in connecting with spirits and otherworldly entities to gain wisdom and power. One of these rituals had gone terribly wrong, leading to the death of a young woman. My grandmother had written about the guilt and fear that haunted her, and how she had tried to bury the past to protect her family. She mentioned a curse tied to the forest and the ritual, a curse that she feared might someday resurface. The journal also included details about a specific night, one that matched the description of my recurring dream almost perfectly. The fog, the whispers, the altar. All of it was real, a memory passed down through generations, now manifesting in my dreams. The realization hit me like a punch to the gut. I was living the nightmare my grandmother had feared, a curse that had lain dormant until now. Determined to unravel the mystery, I started piecing together the information from the journal with other clues I had found. I visited my grandmother's old house, now abandoned and filled with dusty relics of the past. There, I found more evidence of her involvement with the occult, books on rituals, letters to other group members, and more cryptic notes about the curse. Conversations with my parents and older relatives revealed that they had always suspected something was off about the family history, but they had never connected the dots. As I dug deeper, the dream began to affect me physically. I woke up one morning with strange bruises on my arms, exactly where I had felt hands grabbing me in the dream. Another night, I woke up with a shallow cut on my leg, mirroring an injury I had received while running through the forest in my nightmare. These physical manifestations were terrifying proof that the dream was more than just a figment of my imagination. It was bleeding into my reality. The more I learned, the more my fear grew. The whispers in the dream became clearer, the shadows more menacing. I started to see fleeting figures out of the corner of my eye during the day, and the sense of being watched never left me. I felt like I was losing my grip on reality, caught between the waking world and the nightmare that consumed my nights. But the discovery of the curse and my grandmother's connection to it also gave me a sense of purpose. I knew I had to find a way to break the cycle, to end the nightmare once and for all. The journal mentioned a ritual of reversal, a way to lift the curse, but it was incomplete. I would need to gather the remaining pieces of the puzzle, perhaps confront the very entities my grandmother had unwittingly summoned. With Jamie's unwavering support, I prepared to face whatever lay ahead. The dream had brought me to the brink of despair, but it had also given me the determination to fight back. I was no longer just a helpless teenager trapped in a recurring nightmare. I was the key to breaking an ancient curse, and I would do whatever it took to reclaim my life from the darkness that had haunted my family for generations. With the knowledge of the curse and my grandmother's ritual gone wrong, I knew I had to face the dream head-on. I couldn't let it control me any longer. Jamie and I gathered everything we needed for the ritual of reversal. It was risky, but I was desperate to end this nightmare once and for all. The ritual required me to confront the dream directly, to engage with the entities that haunted me every night. We set up the ritual in the very clearing where my grandmother's group had performed their fateful ceremony. As the sun set and darkness enveloped the forest, I felt a chill run down my spine. The air grew thick with tension, and I could almost hear the whispers starting to stir. Jamie lit the candles around the altar, and I took a deep breath, steadying myself. I began reciting the incantations from my grandmother's journal, calling upon the spirits to reveal themselves and end the curse. The forest seemed to come alive around us, the shadows lengthening and the whispers growing louder. As I chanted, I felt myself slipping into a trance, the boundary between the waking world and the dream world blurring. Suddenly, I was no longer in the forest. I was back in the nightmare, surrounded by the familiar fog and oppressive silence. The stone altar loomed before me, but this time, I wasn't alone. Figures emerged from the shadows, twisted, ghostly apparitions of my grandmother's old group, their faces contorted in pain and regret. They circled me, their eyes filled with sorrow and accusation. Among them, the young woman who had died in the ritual stepped forward, her presence radiating both anger and sadness. "You cannot undo what has been done," she whispered, her voice echoing in the silence. "I have to try," I replied, my voice trembling but resolute. "This curse has tormented my family for too long." She reached out, her ghostly hand passing through my chest, and I felt a cold, piercing pain. Memories flooded my mind, not just my own, but those of my grandmother and her group. I saw the ritual as it had been performed, the fear and desperation in their eyes as they realized they had summoned something beyond their control. The young woman's death had been a tragic accident, a misstep in their quest for power. The apparitions closed in on me, their whispers growing louder, almost deafening. I could feel my grip on reality slipping, the dream threatening to consume me entirely. But I couldn't give up. I focused on the ritual of reversal, the words I had memorized, the intent behind them. I had to reclaim control over my mind, my life. I chanted louder, forcing the words out even as the spirits tried to silence me. The shadows around me writhed and twisted, the air growing colder with each passing second. The young woman's apparition loomed over me, her eyes filled with a mixture of anger and sorrow. "I'm sorry," I whispered, my voice breaking. "I'm sorry for what happened to you, but I can't let this continue. I can't let it destroy my family." With a final, desperate surge of strength, I completed the incantation. The world around me exploded in a blinding flash of light, the whispers turning into anguished screams. I felt myself being pulled back, away from the dream, away from the nightmare. I woke up on the forest floor, Jamie shaking me frantically. The candles around us had burned down to stubs, and the clearing was eerily silent. The oppressive feeling had lifted, replaced by an uneasy calm. I could still feel the echoes of the dream in my mind, but the connection had weakened, the curse broken. Exhausted and shaken, I realized the struggle was far from over. The memories of the dream and the confrontation would haunt me for a long time. But for the first time in years, I felt a glimmer of hope. I had faced the darkness within my mind and survived. Now, it was time to reclaim my life and piece together the shattered fragments of my reality. As the sun began to rise, painting the sky with hues of orange and pink, I sat up, taking in the stillness of the forest. The air was crisp, and for the first time in years, I felt a sense of peace. Jamie was beside me, a look of concern and relief on their face. We had done it. The ritual was complete, and the oppressive weight that had haunted my nights seemed to have lifted. In the days following the confrontation, I found myself replaying the events over and over in my mind. The dream, the apparitions, the young woman's ghostly face. All of it left a deep mark on my psyche. I couldn't shake the feeling that I had touched something beyond the veil of our reality, something ancient and powerful. Physically, I bore no new marks or injuries from the encounter, but the bruises and cuts from before served as constant reminders. Emotionally, I was a mix of relief and exhaustion. The dreams had ceased, but their echoes lingered in the corners of my mind, a constant reminder of what I had faced and overcome. I spent hours poring over my grandmother's journal, trying to understand the full scope of what had happened. The curse had been real, a dark shadow cast over my family by a ritual gone wrong. But in confronting it, I had not only freed myself but also brought some measure of peace to the restless spirits tied to it. The young woman's face, once twisted in anger, now appeared in my memories with a sad but grateful expression. Jamie stayed by my side, helping me piece together the remaining fragments of the mystery. We visited the old sites mentioned in my grandmother's journal, each one revealing more about the history of the ritual and the people involved. It became a journey of healing, not just for me, but for my family's past. Despite the resolution, an air of ambiguity remained. The forest, the altar, the spirits, they felt like they were still watching, waiting. The dream might have been a manifestation of the curse, but it also seemed to hold deeper meanings, ones tied to the very fabric of our family's history. I couldn't help but wonder if there were more secrets buried in the past, more truths waiting to be uncovered. As I tried to move on, I found solace in sharing my story. I started documenting everything in a journal of my own, hoping that by writing it down, I could make sense of it all. Jamie encouraged me to talk about it, to share the experience with others who might be going through similar ordeals. It was cathartic, a way to process the trauma and find some measure of closure. Yet, even with the dream cycle broken, a part of me remained vigilant. The forest, now just a place in the waking world, still held a piece of my soul. The whispers were gone, but their memory lingered, a subtle reminder of the thin veil between our world and whatever lay beyond. I was forever changed by the experience. The scars, both seen and unseen, were a testament to the battle I had fought. The dream had been more than just a nightmare. It had been a journey into the depths of my family's past and my own psyche. It had shown me the strength I didn't know I had, the resilience to face the unknown and come out on the other side. As I closed the final page of my journal, I felt a sense of finality but also a new beginning. The dream had shaped me, molded me into someone who could face the darkness and not be consumed by it. The lingering sense of ambiguity, the unanswered questions. They were part of the story, a story that would continue to unfold in the recesses of my mind and in the lives of those who came after me. And so, with a mix of dread and hope, I moved forward, carrying the weight of the dream and its revelations. The forest, the altar, the whispers, they were now part of me, a testament to the journey I had undertaken. And though the future remained uncertain, I knew I had the strength to face whatever came next.